Hello everyone, welcome to the Mysterious Stories channel, where you'll discover the most mysterious, scary, and fascinating stories. Make sure to turn up the volume and get ready for a spine-chilling experience you won't forget. In the remote mountains of Afghanistan, a small, isolated outpost known as FOB Forward Operating Base Falcon sat nestled among the rugged terrain. It was an American military base that had seen its fair share of combat, but recently, it had become the destination for a fresh rotation of soldiers sent to relieve their war-weary comrades. The hum of the helicopter blades faded as it lifted off, leaving the new squad to stand in the dust of FOB Falcon. Captain Jonathan Hughes surveyed the small, makeshift base with a sense of unease. The mountains loomed over them, their peaks disappearing into the mist, making the place feel isolated from the world. Sergeant Ryan Thompson, who had been here before, greeted the outgoing squad leader with a firm handshake. "Welcome to Falcon," the sergeant said, his voice carrying an edge that made the new arrivals wary. "I see they sent you poor bastards to take our place." Private Eric Daniels, fresh-faced and wide-eyed, looked around the base, noting the worn-out expressions of the soldiers they were relieving. "It's quiet here," he remarked. "Too quiet," Sergeant Thompson replied. "You'll get used to it. Or maybe not. Depends on what you believe." As the day wore on, the squad settled into their new surroundings, stowing their gear and checking their equipment. That evening, around the campfire, the soldiers shared stories to pass the time. Thompson, always the one with the tale to tell, began to speak about the base. "You guys ever hear about the Mountain of Screams?" Thompson asked, his tone shifting to one of dark amusement. Rick Daniels leaned in, curious. "Mountain of Screams? What's that?" Thompson smirked. "It's what the locals call the range over there," he said, pointing to a series of jagged peaks in the distance. "They say it's cursed, that those mountains have a way of driving people mad. Soldiers who've spent too much time here start hearing things, seeing things." The men around the fire exchanged uneasy glances, but no one interrupted. Thompson continued, lowering his voice. "It's said that a long time ago, this place was home to a village. The people here were fiercely independent, and they resisted every invader who tried to take their land. But one winter, something happened. They say the villagers started to disappear, one by one. The ones who were left behind would hear screams echoing through the mountains at night, but they could never find the source. Eventually, the whole village vanished, leaving only empty homes in those damn mountains." Private Daniels shifted uncomfortably, trying to dismiss the story as just another scare tactic. But the older soldiers seemed to take it seriously. "They say," Thompson went on, "that the screams are the souls of those villagers, trapped in the mountains, and anyone who hears them is doomed to suffer the same fate." Captain Hughes, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. "That's just a story, Thompson. We've got enough real threats out here without worrying about ghost stories." Thompson nodded, but there was a knowing look in his eyes. "Maybe, sir, but strange things happen out here. Best keep your wits about you." The first night, that night, as the squad settled into their bunks, the eerie silence of the mountains pressed down on them. Daniels, lying awake, couldn't shake Thompson's story from his mind. The wind howled outside, and in the distance, he thought he heard a faint, high-pitched scream. He sat up, heart pounding, but the sound was gone as quickly as it had come. The rest of the night passed without incident, but the seed of fear had been planted the second night. By the time the second night rolled around, the story of the Mountain of Screams had spread through the camp. Some soldiers laughed it off, making jokes and trying to lighten the mood. Others, especially those on the night shift, couldn't shake the feeling of dread. During the night watch, Private Daniels and Sergeant Thompson were stationed at one of the lookout posts. The wind had picked up, howling through the valley, and the sky was overcast, blocking out the moonlight. Daniels tried to keep his mind on the mission, but every rustle of leaves or distant sound made him jump. "You think there's any truth to that story?" he asked Thompson. The sergeant didn't answer right away, When he did, his voice was grave. "I've been here long enough to know that there are things in this world we can't explain. You just have to learn to live with it." As the night wore on, the wind seemed to carry voices, whispers that were almost human, but twisted in a way that made the hair on the back of their neck stand up. Suddenly, the radio crackled to life. "This is Bravo Post. We've got movement on the ridge, west side. Looks like people." Thompson grabbed the radio. "Copy that, Bravo." "How many?" "Can't tell. They're in the shadows, but they're not moving right. Looks unnatural." Thompson and Daniels exchanged a look, then scanned the ridge with their night vision goggles. For a moment, Daniels thought he saw something figures moving in jerky, unnatural motions, like puppets on strings, but when he blinked, they were gone. "Stay sharp, Bravo," Thompson ordered. "We'll check it out at first light." For the rest of the night, the camp was on high alert. No one saw anything else, but the feeling of being watched never left them the morning after. By morning, the story of the strange figures on the ridge had spread through the camp like wildfire. Some soldiers joked about it, trying to mask their unease with humor. But those who had been on watch during the night were quieter, their eyes betraying their anxiety. Around the breakfast table, the soldiers talked in hushed tones. Some dismissed it as nerves, others speculated about what they might have seen. Captain Hughes, determined to maintain order, called for a meeting. "I know some of you had a rough night," he said, looking around at his men. "But we're soldiers, and we have a job to do. I don't want to hear any more talk of ghosts or curses. We'll focus on the mission and get through this rotation." "Understood." The men nodded, though their expressions were still tense. But, as the day wore on, and the sun began to set once more, the fear that had gripped them the night before began to creep back in. The mountains were quiet, too quiet, and the soldiers couldn't shake the feeling that something was out there, watching and waiting. And so began their long, terrifying stint at FOB Falcon, where the line between myth and reality blurred, and the mountain of screams would haunt their every step. If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Mystical Tales, so you won't miss out on more eerie and thrilling tales in the future. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.